Anybody had some peaceful meditations yet? Raise your hands. Yes, I do. Anybody had any peaceful moments? Raise your hand. Satu. So it's looking at the name list, people who are attending, and most of you have done several retreats with an average age of about 58, I think. So you're all very wise, you have no excuses. So I'm going to give some basic meditation instruction and advice that is always relevant. 2 lists, 5 hindrances, 5 powers. So we're probably 7 or 8 sessions of meditation into the retreat. You will have noticed some of these guests. Lord Buddha describes the 5 hindrances as bandits, robbers. They rob the mind of peacefulness. It's an interesting statement. It suggests that the mind would be peaceful were it not for the peace being taken away, which is good. And that also suggests that the nature of the mind. Luang Cha uses the analogy of a leaf that's blowing in the wind. The hindrances are these things that blow the mind. The first one, sensual craving. So that's all of the many people who live in big cities have a lot of services, and many of you will have your favorite noodle stand, your favorite coffee shop, your favorite ice cream. You might be missing some of those things. Right now it's about the time I have my latte. And it's normal. But if we can just know when these things come up earlier, if we just recognize, oh, that's a hindrance, and then give the interest to the breath, that can save some time. Because the problem with the hindrances is that the mind, it does take the mind on a journey. They invite the mind out in various ways. So it can be mild, little things. I miss my pillow. I miss my air conditioner. I miss my cat. And a lot of these things, I have nice cats. A lot of these things, there's a certain sensual, tactile feeling, even with like patting your pets. You'll get a nice, pleasant feeling, a bit of dopamine releases in the brain. And a lot of these things are subtle sensuality. Comfort, attachment to comfort. And the problem with being attached to comfort is it does tend to make the mind dull. And it would be wonderful if it was the other way. The more comfortable you became, the sharper your mind was. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Relax and be comfortable all the way to Nibbana. But I've never heard of such a approach. So we have to recognize craving for things is something that takes energy away from the mind, takes the mind out. In its more coarse manifestations, that would be the sexual passion, sexual fantasy. And that consumes a lot of energy, and that weakens mindfulness quite a bit. So it's good if we can catch those kind of things early. And oftentimes we have to apply an antidote meditation when if the mind gets caught in a fantasy that has some strong energy behind it. The death meditation is a good one. So it works for both for craving for and craving not for. The awareness of death. The second hindrance is the craving not for, the aversion. So we can ask ourselves, if I was definitely going to die today, would I still be as deeply committed to this fantasy? And if it's a really good fantasy, maybe you would be. But then a good question to ask is not just death meditation, it's a rebirth meditation. If you die with this meditation, with this fantasy, where do you think you'll be reborn? It's a good question. If you really like ice cream, you might be reborn as a Baskin and Robbins sales assistant, you know. If you have merit, you might be the managing director of an ice cream company. But that lots of suffering comes with that. Irritation and aversion, so that can be in many, many things, obviously. It's too hot. It's too cold. She coughs too much. That guy's pants make foop, 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 foop sounds. I don't like that. I don't like the way she walks. I don't like the way she looked at me, etc., etc. The thing to understand about this energy is sometimes it's there because we've made karma with it, we've made habits with it. It's almost like it's looking for an excuse, something to be irritated with, someone to not like. And again, if we recognize it quickly, don't feed it, and we don't have to get too contentious with these things. We should just develop a sense of, oh, that one again, or that one, and not give it the energy, not follow the thoughts. And this is why the breath meditation is so wonderful, because we have something else to pay attention to. In just giving the interest, giving the care, knowing the breath, and we don't feed the thoughts, don't feed the hindrances. It can be angry thoughts, violent thoughts, hateful thoughts. And all of these things have their subtle and then gross manifestations. So it's not uncommon for people, when you finally get some quiet time, you're trying to meditate, some memory of some particular hurt or betrayal or lie, and then there's the reacting again, and then there's the anger, and then there's the thoughts of, you're going to go and give that person a piece of your mind, you're going to pay them back or make them suffer because they made you suffer. All of that stuff that our minds do. And understand that Lord Buddha has described that these are robbers that rob you from your peace. One of the reflections on karma, of course, is very, very powerful. And if people did things which hurt our feelings, it's probably the case that we did things that hurt people's feelings. And in fact, I think it happens to everybody as well. So no matter who you are, somebody lets you down, somebody lies to you. It's part of the human realm experience. So if it's part of the human realm experience, do we want to be contentious with it? Or do we want to get wise to it? I think wisdom's the better response. We see these things as normal, or at least common. These things are common. And if we get contentious, if we get argumentative, if we seek betrayal, then we're binding ourselves to more births in this kind of realm, where beings disappoint one another, betray one another, take revenge on one another. So Lord Buddha's teaching, he describes it as leading to heaven and beyond. So that's where we want to go. We want to go to heaven and beyond. The consequence of being truly human, keeping the 5 precepts, being human with a deva mind, meditating, having a sense of conscience, practicing forgiveness consciously, cultivating loving kindness, that leads to heaven. If we practice further on our virtuous, noble mind foundation, we contemplate the characteristics of conditions, train ourselves in meditation. That's what's leading to the beyond, above and beyond realms, the unconditioned. So this is why we don't want to get lost in hindrances. This is why we want the mind to experience some peacefulness, because the peacefulness will give the stability, the clarity, to see the deeper nature of conditions and not grasp at them as a self. So the other next hindrance is sleepiness, sloth and torpor, as it's called. So it's normal, get up a bit earlier, got some dullness, got some sleepiness. It can be very heavy, and really nodding and dribbling. It could be quite light, just sitting straight, but there's a cloud in the mind. This is normal. These things are all common. It's very interesting when you read the enlightenment story in the biography of Mahamoggallana, equal to Lord Buddha in psychic powers. Apparently he was really struggling with a lot of sloth, right up to the point of enlightenment. And the Buddha had to give him instructions. Look into the light, wash his face, pull his ears. And so it's good to know that you're in good company. The great arahants had experiences. We need to learn skillful means, like just opening the eyes and letting in light. Still being aware of the breath. There are some traditions that meditate with the eyes open. So looking a little bit in front of one and breathing a bit more deeply, gently waking up the mind. In general, as meditation retreats progress, the hindrances become a little more subtle. The sloth probably becomes a bit lighter, and the thoughts come down a bit. Takes time, takes effort, and we just work with it, have a sense of gentle but determined consistency. The next hindrance is the restlessness and worry, anxiousness. This can really take us out of our center, all the things there are to worry about. Sometimes it's good just to say to these thoughts, not now, come back later. This is the meditation session. Picking up, we were practicing metta last night, picking up a wholesome meditation object. If the mind is inclining towards anxiety and worry, restlessness, then we pick something up that's wholesome, and we just keep plugging away at it. May I be well, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be happy, until there is metta in the mind, instead of anxiousness, restlessness and worry. And sometimes people think, I don't want to do metta because I don't feel like I have metta right now, that doesn't feel right. We need to understand that it's like a tuning fork. You pick up the tuning fork so that you can then incline the mind to resonate with that. You just keep saying it until there is metta. One way that I find helpful is if I just look in the heart area, whatever hindrance is present, there's actually some unpleasant feelings associated with that. This is your Vedananusati, just being aware of the feelings, any of those hindrances, and particularly with anxiety, restlessness, worry. We look at there and say, okay, is there some suffering? Is there some unpleasant feeling? Usually there is. And then we can ask ourselves, can I respond to that with kindness? Hopefully you can. You can tell yourself, I would like you to respond to this with kindness. And open the heart, recognize that here is a being that has some suffering. Practice some friendliness. Sometimes compassion works. If there's suffering there, breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be free from suffering. And we just do that, and so the suffering can be coarse and gross and extremely painful. Suffering can be subtle. So it's a useful meditation almost any time. May I be well, may I be completely free from suffering. Only the arahants are completely free from suffering. The last one, doubt. And so you can doubt about all sorts of things. You can doubt your abilities, doubt that meditation even works, doubt the Buddha's enlightenment, doubt this tradition. And the dangerous thing about doubt hindrance is that it distracts you and keeps you from applying a good effort where you are right now. So it wastes time and wastes energy. And Lord Buddha doesn't say that we shouldn't use our discernment. He says in doubtful matters one should have doubt. But a lot of people get caught in doubts that aren't very wise. Again, we can use antidotes. So most people, you're not going to be signing up for a meditation retreat if you didn't have faith in the Buddha. So we bring that up. Do you have confidence in Lord Buddha? His enlightenment? Normally the answer is yes. Lord Buddha, after his enlightenment, walked to the deer park, taught the 5 disciples. They attained the same liberation as him. That then suggests that other conscious beings have the same potential. Then, in his 45 years of teaching, probably millions of beings realize the same liberation. Then we don't need to doubt. It's there, it's the hardware and the software. You have the same system. You've got the same 5 khandhas. It's a potential. When you have a body and you have a mind affected by great hatred and delusion, you have the potential to purify and liberate the mind. So the next list is the 5 spiritual powers. My favorite, short, succinct, common sense list of Dhammas after Lord Buddha was enlightened. He himself was somewhat awestruck with the accomplishment. It was so amazing, so wonderful, after so long. And there was some initial reluctance to teach because he saw that it's not easy for people to penetrate the Buddha Dhamma because it does go in the opposite direction to the world. And then the legend describes that Brahma Sahampati came and said to Lord Buddha, please review the minds of beings. There are those who will understand, Lord Buddha. And he could see that most beings' minds were like little lotus buds still in muddy water. Those ones cannot be liberated yet. But there were some a little bit higher up, the ones in the clear water, getting ready to blossom. Those ones could be taught. Beings who had some familiarity with virtue, some mental cultivation, an inclination towards goodness. And then there were those that were above the water, fully ready to blossom, easy to teach. So Lord Buddha then agreed, started formulating ways to try to teach beings. When, in one of the weeks after his enlightenment, sitting meditation in the area around the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, it said that Lord Buddha would spend a week in liberation, the bliss of liberation, but then he would review one subject and then move and contemplate another subject. When he was wondering with awe, how was this possible? He saw that 5 qualities when cultivated, made much of, lead to the deathless and merge in the deathless. So the wonderful thing about this is 5, it's not that difficult to remember. Lumpur Samedo used to use this list when he was a young monk at Wat Pah Pong. When he was practicing, he would use it as something of a mantra, because to see if all 5 were powerful, all 5 were working together. Faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Sattha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya. Lord Buddha could see when those 5 qualities were powerful, working together, the mind merged in the deathless. What does that mean? It means it attained Nibbana. It was purified, it was liberated. So this is a very nice list to have next to the 5 hindrances. You have 5 hindrances, they're robbers, they're bandits, obstructions. You have 5 powers, these will lead you to Nibbana. Oftentimes, lifting up the face when doing anusati, one of the samatha practices, will pacify those 5 hindrances. You lift up your faith in the Buddha. Recollect Lord Buddha's wholesome qualities. Recollect that you have that potential. Recollect the path of the Bodhisattva that led to his Buddhahood. Feelings of gratitude arrive, very close to mudita, brahmavihara, another samatha practice. Simply feeling grateful to Lord Buddha. Recollecting the great masters that you know or know of, your favorite practitioners, and feeling grateful, and then reminding yourself they've all developed, they've all experienced their potential, they've all demonstrated the potential of humans, and then you have that potential. Feeling confident, it's the opposite of doubt. And the mind, one of the reasons the mind falls into sensual craving is because it wants something pleasant, it wants something more pleasant than what it has now. And the thing about samatha practices is they are pleasant. When the mind picks up a samatha practice and is actually with metta, for example, or buddhanusati, or gratitude, there is pleasant feeling. The mind will be content with that. So we need to learn how to use various tools to bring gladness, bring joy. And then when we bring some gladness and we bring some joy, oftentimes then the mind is happy to be with the breath. So we have faith in Lord Buddha, had faith in what he realized, Nibbana, have faith that we have the potential, have faith in the practices, have faith in our ability. When we do, that brings up energy, which is the next of the 5 powers. Nice, good, clear mental energy, wholesome energy. Sometimes the mind seems dull and there isn't much energy. And one thing that many of us will notice is oftentimes it's effort itself that brings about energy. You can't sit around waiting for the energy to arise to make an effort, because the energy might not arise. Oftentimes we make the effort and the energy arises. I'm an abbot, I lead the evening chanting most evenings in my monastery. About half the time I don't want to do it. I want to meditate at my kuti. I go, I light the candles, I light the incense, I start chanting. 5 minutes into the chanting, I'm glad I'm there. So I've witnessed this hundreds of times now. I just want to sit here, it's nice and quiet. Nope. Go and lead some others in the practice, Venerable. I go and I start and I go through the motions, and okay, it's all right. You don't wait to feel into it. You make some effort and you get into it. Energy arises. Mindfulness is the next. When we We all have some mindfulness, tends to be a bit dull, scattered, fuzzy. You'd crash your car if you didn't have any mindfulness. Fall down the stairs. So you have some. When we practice with formal meditation objects, that's what makes our mindfulness good mindfulness. When we practice taking an object, bringing the mind to be more centered, then the mindfulness becomes clearer. Good mindfulness. Good mindfulness can then be trained on other objects. There's a link, of course, between energy and mindfulness. If we are consistent in our mindfulness, that's important as well. After the meditation, we set the intention to be mindful in other postures, mindful throughout the day, mindful of our speech. If we're more consistent with our mindfulness, we notice there's more energy. Because when we don't have much mindfulness, the energy gets scattered. When we do have mindfulness, the energy is contained. Good mindfulness and energy trained becomes concentration, collectedness, the fourth of the five powers. When the mind becomes collected, it is a little bit difficult to describe samadhi. There's the limitations of language. Concentration isn't quite right. Concentration has the connotation of like screwing up your forehead and trying to remember paragraphs from the textbook or whatever. Collectedness kind of is better, but in my experience of a peaceful mind, there's a sense of space as well. It's less contracted, more spacious than normal awareness, but it has a center. So how do you describe that? Spacious awareness with a center? And an island in the storm? When we do practice right collectedness, peacefulness is a good word. So different types of peacefulness that one can incline the mind towards. Again, when we get some collectedness, the mind gathers, the mind settles, the mind has more of a center. That can be then channeled into being more mindful. Being more mindful, there's more energy. The energy can be redirected into the faith to make faith really powerful. Oftentimes, less so with Asians. Asians often have strong faith. And particularly this age group, young Asians have less faith. Some of them. Faith is a very interesting, wonderful power. If a person's more heady, more intellectual, you have faith in the 84,000 Dhamma verses, you have faith in the Buddha's incredible wisdom, knowledge. You have faith because it's logic and it makes sense. On the level of the heart, if you truly have faith in the Buddha, if you truly have faith in the symbol, the archetype of liberation, of purity, then that's a different feeling. And when you recollect, for example, the path of the Bodhisattva, how long he worked to accumulate the qualities and the energy to become the Samma Sambuddha, then naturally there's feelings of gratitude, appreciation. So when we have all of those things coming together, confidence in the teachings, appreciation of the wisdom, the logic, the fact that it makes sense, you can trust it on that level. And then gratitude, and then love, then that's a very enriching quality. So our insights, whatever insights we develop in the course of practice, whatever concentration we develop in the course of practice, it tends to feed the faith again. It's like, oh, I have even more faith. It really works. More faith, more energy. So these five qualities nourish one another. If ever it feels that practice is a bit stuck, you can have a look. Is one of these five qualities a bit weak? Is one of them lacking? It's what Ajahn Sumedho was doing. He was saying, okay, is there strong faith? Is there good energy? Is there mindfulness? Is there concentration? Is there wisdom? And am I thinking wisely? So I offer that for your reflection. I hope something I said was helpful.